Hello and welcome to episode 11 of The Australian Runner, a weekly show about running and everything running related. I'm Ben, and with me is Chris.
Hi everyone.
Last week we had the excitement of the Nitro Ath series, but now we're back to our regularly scheduled podcasting. This week's episode is all about the amazing Benita Willis. Let's get started. To start off this episode, do you want to just give us a rundown of a brief biography?
Yes, so Benita Willis is one of Australia's best ever middle to long distance runners. She's a 4 times Olympian. She ran in the 2000, 2004, 2008 and 2012 Olympics. The highlight of her career was winning the World Cross Country Gold in 2004 in Belgium, and she's the last non-African to win the championship. She holds the Australian records for the 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 metres on the track, as well as the 3,000 metre indoor. And then moving to the road, she owns the 10, the 20, the 25, the 30 kilometre road races, as well as the Australian Marathon.
So she's got about every single record she could possibly get her hands on.
Pretty much. She dominated the field of Australian distance running.
So Benita was originally from Mackay in Queensland, but she joined Nick Bordeaux in Melbourne at the Melbourne Track Club. So she was mainly based out of Melbourne and London during her running career.
Yeah, but since she's retired, she's moved back to Queensland. She works for Queensland Athletics as a running manager.
Right, so would you be able to give us a brief overview of her sort of training program?
Yeah, sure. One of the things with her training was it consisted of 160 to 180 kilometres a week, year in, year out. The emphasis of her whole training regime was on consistency of mileage and training solidly throughout the year, rather than doing more or less. It was more even and consistent throughout the whole year. There was obviously some speed work done in the lead up to competitions, but the main focus was on aerobic conditioning. The pillars of her training regime were long runs, threshold runs, hills, and long intervals. All these training types targeted the aerobic energy systems, but they were supported with recovery runs, strides, drills, and exercises using her body weight. I'll give you a weekly rundown of what she did.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, so Mondays and Wednesdays were about 60 to 80 minute runs. Tuesday would be the long interval session. Thursday would be a tempo run. Friday would be either a rest or a short run, say 30 to 50 minutes. Saturday would be hills, and Sunday would be a long run. And 4 or 5 times a week, she'd do a second run in the evening. Maybe Monday through to Thursday, she'd do a second run.
So for other parts of her training, did she do more longer recovery runs or sort of massages as well?
Yeah, so her recovery runs would be in the afternoon or evening. She'd go out 4 or 5 times a week, maybe Monday through to Thursday, and do half an hour easy at an easy pace. And of course, she did love her massages. She'd maybe even 2 or 3 times a week, she'd get a deep tissue massage to help refresh the legs and help her recover for a next hard session the next day. We've previously mentioned that hills were one of her core training pillars. Would you be able to give us a rundown of what that consisted of?
Yeah, so Benita Willis, she was a really big fan of her hill sessions and credits these to her long career in cross country. Especially as she won the World Cross Country Gold Medal and she attacked going up a hill. So one of her favourite hill sessions was a 3-minute effort at 5 kilometre pace with jog back recovery, and she repeated this 6 to 8 times. Another favourite session of hers for hills was a 1-minute effort at 1500 metre pace with a jog back recovery, and she did this a couple more times, 8 to 10 times. So if you're interested in places that she thinks is good to do these sort of sessions, she recommends Centennial Park if you're in Sydney or Faulkner Park in Melbourne.
All right, cool. Go out, hit the road.
For sure.
in that same vein of hill sessions, they're not only good because they're harder to run up a hill and obviously target your aerobic energy systems, but they actually strengthen your legs and they'll strengthen the muscles, so you'll be able to be more efficient with your stride. You'll be able to run faster and just have a more efficient running pattern. And another thing with hills are that they're lower impact than running on the flat because you most likely run slower, but still be running at what feels to be the same toughness. Or you have to tough it out or run as hard as you would on the flat, but you're actually running slower, so there's less impact on the joints and muscles in your legs. You're less likely to be sore the next day.
Yeah, good point.
I might just jump in here and go on about intervals.
Yeah.
So one of Benita's core sessions was on a Tuesday where she'd do interval sessions with interval sizes from 400 meters up to 1k or a mile or even 2 kilometers. The whole session would get to a volume of about 8 kilometers of hard running, so they were not small in any means. But the key here was that she progressed throughout over the course of a year. So one of the core sessions is 8 to 10 times 1 kilometer. And early in the season, Benita would have run them in 3 minutes 20 every rep with 1 minute in between. But then halfway, a couple of months in, she's running 3:10 for every rep. And then a couple of months further on, she runs every second rep or 2 of the reps in 3 minutes. And you get a vary of pace. But then you might even change the length. So you're keeping that 3:10 repetition pace, but doing 4 by 2 kilometers at 6:20.
Yeah, and this is a technique that everyone can use in their own training sessions.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you start off, you're not going to be as good, even if she's an elite athlete, but she wants to reach a higher bar. So what she does is she starts with a hard session, but not too hard. And so she slowly builds up how hard the session is.
It's really about those incremental gains in fitness and that progressive overload of the sessions, that the sessions slowly get harder as you get fitter.
Yeah. That's fair.
One of the sessions that she did in the lead up to a championship was 3 by a mile, and each rep she'd focus on something different. The first repetition, she did a kick down where every lap got faster. So I think she did like 74 seconds for the first lap, then 71, then 70, then 68. But then the second repetition, she ran fast in laps 2 and 4, so they were 68s, but laps 1 and 3 were 74s. So it was the same time she ran for the mile, but they varied the paces of the laps, and I think the last rep she'd run would also be a kick down. And it's good just to feel like you're running fast, especially those kick down, that it starts off easy first lap, you can get into it, and then you're really running hard when it feels like in a race where you want to run hard at the end of the race.
Yeah.
You're getting used to races finishing off hard and fast, and you just get confident being able to bring that speed later in races as well.
Yeah, mentally it's really good knowing that you've got that extra kick at the end because you've trained doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we'll leave long repetitions there because we have to talk about long runs.
Every Sunday morning, she would do a long run ranging between an hour and a half to 2 hours. She'd do this as part of a group, a big training group, because she was in a training group with Craig Mottram.
Yeah, and all of Nick Bideau's athletes. So they have a high quality group of athletes assembled.
Yep. And if you want to hear more about Craig Mottram, we did an episode about him a couple of weeks ago. So Benita actually did a 90-minute long run 6 days before she won the World Cross Country Championships.
Yeah, and I think the thing about the long run was just the consistency, week in, week out, exactly the same thing. Because the long repetitions, they change sessions, but this was always the same, 90 minutes over hilly terrain. And that consistency, your body gets used to it. So running only 6 days before the World Cross Country, she was fine with because she was so used to it and it was ingrained, and it also gives you confidence being able to run for that long.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the end of the first section of the show. We hope you found that useful, hearing about what other elite athletes do. So now I'll pass it over to Chris and he'll give you the news.
Alright, with the Nitro Athletics series, we haven't had a proper news section for about 2 weeks now, so there's a fair bit of news to catch up on. Let's go just to last night, and in Victoria there was the Vic Milers, which incorporated the Victorian Mile Championships. A great field was assembled, many interstate athletes. So it was great to see that Jordan Guzman took the win ahead of Jack Rayner and Brett Robinson, with all three guys running sub 4 minutes, and an 18-year-old Jai Edwards actually ran 4 minutes flat, 0.2. So just 0.2 of becoming a member of the sub 4 minute mile crew. And I think Brett Robinson, that was the first time he broke 4 minutes. So an old athlete still pushing the limits of these shorter events. Moving up to Sydney the other week, Josh Clark, the leading Australian 100 metre runner, ran 20.88 for the 200 metres, and Jenny Blundell, the Rio Olympian, ran 4.12 over 1,500 metres. For both athletes, this was their season opener. In the same vein, Jared Clifford, the Rio Paralympian, ran 3:49.05, missing that world record by less than a second. So he's one to look out for on the Paralympic scene in the coming years. Jai Edwards ran 3:41.69 over 1,500 metres, which is the 7th fastest junior in Australian history, as he's only 18. And I just mentioned that he just missed out on running the 4 minute mile last night at Vic Milers. Moving overseas now, and in America, Morgan McDonald, currently at college over there, ran 7:51 in a 3,000 metre meet, which was a big PB for him. And some of the Melbourne track crew, Ryan Gregson, straight after Nitro, jumped on the plane and headed off to Europe and ran 3:56 for the mile in an indoor meet in Ireland. Zoe Buckman ran 4:11 and Jen Lacars ran 4:13 in a 1,500, all in the same meet. And then for a new national record set just last week was Dane Bird-Smith in the 3,000 metre racewalk with a time of 10:54. He won the 20k race walk last year in Rio, bronze medal, sorry. And he looks like he's continued that strong form into this year. There's lots of news coming around the corner, getting to the serious end of the domestic season. So we'll be bringing you more news next week.
Thanks for that, Chris. And that's it for the show this week. Thank you everyone for listening. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube and SoundCloud as The Australian Runner, and check us out on Facebook and Instagram too. See you next week.
See you then.